topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I was thinking the other day about the show. We have been doing our tax relief with taxation solutions for about 15 years. We started off with radio. And it seems so long ago that we did radio. And we were on a top radio station in Houston, in Florida. And Barry has been with us for that long. And I got to tell you, after all these years, this is the easiest show to do. And it's because we have got the greatest listeners and viewers who take the time to write their questions in. And I think there's even people that would be too embarrassed maybe to actually face someone in person. But Barry Fowler has made this my top show, top numbers, and I'm not getting teary-eyed or anything, but this is just my favorite show to do. Let me welcome you to Barry Fowler, who's the president and founder of Taxation Solutions, Inc. He's actually been an enrolled agent, and for those of you who don't know, we will tell you what an enrolled agent, and he's been doing this for over 40 years. I love having him on. Good morning, Barry.
Hey, good morning, man. It's been all kinds of trouble here today.
Yes.
Just getting connected here, but I was supposed to be in Baltimore today. We were dealing with a revenue officer who decided to be like biggest jerk in the world and wants to do site visits. So I was going out there for a client, and I spent 2 hours in TSA lines, watched my flight get changed from 6 to 7:30 to 9:30 to 10:45, and then finally canceled.
Wow.
So, nothing like spending, 8, 9 hours at an airport to turn around and go home and not be able to make it out to help our client with the site visit and stuff. But, when the IRS is there going to be knocking on your door, everybody's got that sinking feeling. Now, not having us to represent them when this revenue officer is supposed to be coming out, we're going to still try to do everything we can to stop him from going out until we can get out there. But, that's our fun thing today. So instead of doing it from a hotel room in Baltimore, I'm sitting here at the office doing the show here, so we still get an opportunity to talk and help people.
Barry, I think that's the first time in 15 years that you've told me that you're flying out to see a revenue officer.
Yeah, this client happens to owe quite a bit of money, and I think between owners and the business, they're over $3 million. So revenue officers gotten involved in this case, and sometimes that's what happens when you ignore notices and continue to ignore them, and the IRS decides they're going to start really getting after them for, everything collection wise. Now, the client, yeah, they're at fault for doing some of this stuff, but some of it was the fault of their payroll company because they didn't make the payroll tax payment. So that's a lesson for all businesses, is even though you had a payroll company doing your payroll taxes, you need to make sure those deposits are being made. If you don't see them coming out of your account, make sure you're getting with your payroll company to get those payroll taxes paid, because, falling into debt because somebody else isn't doing their job still leaves you 100% liable, not them.
Barry, that's amazing you brought that up, because about a week and a half ago, a friend of mine told me they bought that online service that everybody hears about and they advertise, and how they're going to, if there's a problem, they'll be there with you. Big company, a lot of national advertising. And she was trying to save some money, hired them, and of course, they screwed up. When it was time for them to be there by her side, Barry, I know you've probably heard this story before. They weren't there. And she was more upset about that than the fact that they screwed up her taxes, and she had to explain to the IRS about the work they screwed up on when they promote that they're going to be there with you.
Well, it's really hard to have their support group there when they're not here in the United States. So,
Exactly. Bangladesh.
it's kind of like getting some of my reservations canceled because the flight was canceled. Well, when you're sitting there dealing with AI, or you're dealing with people that aren't here, it's really one of the toughest things you can go through and do. And you're just like beating your head against the wall going, why can't I get help? The good news is, here at taxationsolutions.net, tax relief, our people are right here in the US. We're all enrolled agents. We're all licensed by the US Department of Treasury to represent you, the taxpayer, to the highest levels of the IRS. And most of the time we can control what's going on, here from our offices, and, working with the revenue officers. And most of the time they don't want to go out to look or do anything. They're willing to work with us when we're willing to get the right payment plans in place. Or, if the situation merits it, we can file that offer in compromise and keep that revenue officer at bay and stop them from doing things. If it really gets bad, we can make them actually go get a court order to go out there and visit. But a lot of times what we want to do is just control the situation, get it worked out the best way possible for our clients, the taxpayer, and get them in a good situation. So if you're running into a tax problem, maybe you got a revenue officer and you need somebody to control it, you can just call us here at Taxation Solutions, which is 888-930-1016. Again, 888-930-1016. And if you mention that you heard us here on Ask the Experts, man, we're going to give you special discounts just to help you with your tax problem and the situation.
Barry, I've got all of my emails in front of me, and at the top of the list, it says no judgment zone. And I got to tell people, we get so many letters that start off, I am so embarrassed about the position. I mean, they take the blame. They don't blame anybody but themselves. I'm so embarrassed. And I want people, and you're the one who taught me this, that I want people to understand that when you hire Barry, when you first start talking to Barry, no one's going to judge you. And I think, I never hear a commercial about that, Barry, but I sure get a lot of letters that start off, "I'm so embarrassed."
Yeah, we don't pass judgment here. We've heard all the different um scenarios that are possibly out there, and every now and then I kind of get amazed by something. But I mean, life happens, so there shouldn't be any judgment on you for having a tax debt. There is no judgment here about why maybe you didn't file tax returns for 1 year, 2 years, or even 5 years. I mean, we understand it. Sometimes you get out into business and you're self-employed and you don't know what to expect. You didn't know what the situation was for taxes and how it would impact you. Um, with self-employment taxes. I mean, just think if you netted $100,000 first year as being self-employed, are you really prepared to understand that you should have paid 15.3% in self-employment taxes alone? And then add to that your federal income tax. And if you're in a state that's taxed, then you add in the state income tax. And now you're talking about an incredible amount of money you owe to the IRS and you weren't ready for it. So we're not going to pass judgment on you for that. We're just going to help you get through the situation and get you back, in compliance where the IRS kind of wants you to be, and then work out the payment plans or an offer in compromise or even non-collectible status, depending on what your situation is.
Barry, exactly right. And it's, you know, I got to tell people because I see these commercials on TV, and I got to tell you that, like I said, I've been working with Barry for 15 years, and I have not, listen, I'm sure there are some, I mean, it's kind of hard to be in business as long as you have and not have one person upset, but Barry, I mean, I never hear anything bad about taxation solutions. And if you look at these companies on TV, they have got so many complaints. Mostly they pay their money and they never get back with them. And I'm sure you've heard these.
Oh yeah, we hear it all the time, Steve. It's one of those incredible things that we're here to work with our clients. We're here to help them every step of the way, and we stay in communication with them. Matter of fact, a lot of times we hear one of the downfalls about working with us is that we communicate too often. Um, you know, we try to keep in touch every single month, even when there's no activity going on by the IRS or we're just in a waiting game with the IRS to process or do something. And, we're always contacting. When the IRS is working with us and we need things, we're contacting people all the time. We've got an offer in compromise that has been sitting out there pending with the IRS, waiting for them to do something that was sitting out there for 9 months. We couldn't force the IRS to do anything. Well, now they're all of a sudden jumping on it. And, we stayed in contact with the taxpayer, our client, and it really helps us because they knew we were going through with this and we were working with them diligently. And now the offer examiners wanting to move quick, get everything supported, get updated information. So we're working with them to, get all that done so we can get this offer approved and get them back, to where they can live their life and not be worried about the IRS or what's going to happen and not have to pay anything more. So, to be good for them. But that's kind of the reason we need to do it because we really want you and you have to be involved in the settlement of your case with the IRS because we can't make things up. We need your help to get the information, actual information from you to get your case resolved.
I want to let people know that we do two shows a month. This is our Houston area show, which includes all the way up to Huntsville, Texas. But we also do a national show. We are doing our first national show on a Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern time, this Monday. And I haven't even told Barry this. We have gotten so many questions that are business related questions that I've got enough questions on Monday to make the whole show on business concerns. And I could not believe, Barry, all the businesses out there that have so many concerns with the IRS.
They happen. I mean, in the economy we had before, where you were affected with so much inflation and costs going up, people weren't making their payments. Sometimes it was payroll taxes, sometimes, it's just other tax debt. And, it became a big issue. So we're seeing that more and more. Just like the client, we were going to go out and work with the revenue officer and do the site visit with them. You're starting to see that happen quite a bit. We've got a surge of calls from taxpayers who are starting to get their first revenue officer visit, actually getting revenue officers assigned to cases. And, even though the IRS is undermanned and have less people, the revenue officers haven't changed much. It's the support staff that has. And these guys are doing what they've got to do, for collections. And when you substantially owe a bunch of money, they are going to find ways to come after you for, everything that you owe. And that's part of the jobs of those revenue officers.
Well, one of the letters we got, Barry, and again, I'm sure this will not surprise you. So he was trying to handle it himself. He's a business owner. I don't know what kind of business, how big or small, but he said, I was literally on hold for 3 hours. Does that surprise you with the IRS?
No, not at all. These day and age, getting into collections and talking to collections, it is a very, very long waiting period, and sometimes just extremely long. And sometimes you're sitting on hold for 2 hours, and then all of a sudden their system hangs up on you.
No.
And tell me how that one feels. You know, we've got a special hotline that we're able to work through and get to our support staff over there at the IRS that helps us. But even at times at that, it's a long wait, to get through to them, to work out deals and get through to collections. And then sometimes I transfer you endlessly to different places. I can't even imagine what taxpayer calling the general line for collections is going to go through when, we see it on a daily basis as we're working through our clients' issues with the IRS.
Well, since we just got a question in, a text in, I'm going to ask this to you. They want to know what the difference is in working with an enrolled agent versus hiring a lawyer.
One could be fees. Lawyers love to charge just for having an attorney at the end of their name.
Yes.
The second part is depending on the attorney that you're hiring, if they're not a tax attorney where they just specialize in dealing with taxes, they may not know everything that goes on with the IRS. We know we're an enrolled agents. Which means we were tested to be able to get that designation, EA, at the end of our name. And so we go through the extensive testing, we go through an extensive FBI background check, and then we continue to do 30 plus hours of continuing education every year. We specialize in dealing with IRS tax problems and state tax problems. And so we're going to be able to, hold your hand, walk you through this. We're not going to just delegate you to somebody else in our office. You're going to have an enrolled agent that's working with you. You're going to have that admin that is right there working next to our enrolled agents that will also holds your hand. So you're always going to be able to be in contact with specific people here in our office and know that you're going to be in good hands in guiding you through this. And that's a big thing when you're going out there and you're finding a company out there is find somebody that is an expertise. Enrolled agents are the ones that know more about taxes than CPAs and most attorneys.
I got to tell you this, Barry. I think I've shared this with you. Barry, I don't know if you remember, I was a sports agent, represented a lot of the Houston Oilers. Actually, it's kind of sad. I've seen some of them pass away over the last 2 or 3 years. But so I was a sports agent, and people would always say to me, wait a minute, you're not a lawyer. How can you do this? Well, you didn't have to be a lawyer. You just had to know the rules and how it was more about negotiating than the laws. And so many times I had guys come back to me and ask me, how did I get certain players more money because I'm not a lawyer? I didn't need to be a lawyer. It's your negotiation skills and knowing what you can do and what you can't do. It's kind of the same thing with you.
Absolutely. And our expertise is that we're licensed enrolled agents. We're licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to represent taxpayers to the highest level of the IRS. So the only thing I can't do is go into tax court because I'm
Right.
not an attorney. But going into tax court and having a tax attorney representing you is going to cost you, $5,000 or $10,000 just to go into tax court
Easily.
with them. And even though we don't represent people in tax court, I've helped our clients in tax court and managed to help them win going through mediators and stuff, which I can help you with. But, tax court is really there if you really have a major issue that we can't get resolved. Um, working with the revenue officers or working with the agents that are there or working through the audit and audit representations. There's a lot of things we can do that avoid ever having to go to tax court. If there is a legal issue, we've got attorneys that we know that we can refer you to get that representation when and if that's ever needed. But I very seldom see that that's going to be needed. Our expertise here as enrolled agents, again, licensed to represent you, the taxpayers, to the highest levels of the IRS, know more about taxes than most attorneys do. And I can definitely tell you the most CPAs, because CPAs are trained about accounting and doing, certified work out there on that side. Very few are actually, having a expertise in everything tax like we do. And trust me, hey, I grew up being a CPA. I used to have my CPA license that I just don't renew because it was so important to me to have complete expertise in taxes that I decided that, hey, having my EA, my enrolled agent license, was the most important thing.
Barry's probably not going to like me saying this, but I've learned this from doing probably over 400 shows with Barry. There have been times where Barry knew more than the IRS, the revenue agent. Seriously.
Yeah. Hey, that happens daily. Even a revenue officer that I'm dealing with right now, I had to quote him a couple of things just to get him off the client's back. And, he's trying to hit them for, way more and faster collections than he has the right to do. So, we've gone through and told him where we're at in the Internal Revenue Manual and, what the IRS code is for reasonable collections. And, if we have to, we've already started working with his manager to make sure that we're only operating in reasonable collections, not operating in, his little dream world of, high dollar collections because that's what he wants and that's what he sees fit. Matter of fact, we actually outsmarted him this year, just in the last month, and he was levying trust fund penalties against our clients, and we went backdoor and got those prevented to stop him from levying the trust fund penalties against our clients. So our clients were extremely happy. He was not, and I think that's why he wanted this site visit so bad. And he was bringing his manager's manager to come out there, which is really kind of a disappointment to me because I really wanted to have a conversation with him as well about his unreasonable collection activities that he's been trying. And we'll end up appealing him all the way as far as we can. And by the time we're done appealing, they'll be down to a reasonable amount owing, and he won't have a choice but accept what our payment plan will be.
Barry, because you see this and hear this all the time, and I want people out there to know they're not alone. And we get people saying all the time, tell Barry to tell more stories. People love your stories. But when a person comes to see you, I cannot even imagine what it feels like to have the IRS after you. I can't even imagine that. And it has got to be so tough. I'm sure it affects things at home with the wife. I think it affects their everyday living. What is it like when these people come in? And first of all, knowing, gosh, I know that sitting down with you, Barry, after I would talk to you, that I would feel so much better now just knowing I've got you on my side. But it's got to be so tough on a person when they owe the IRS.
Well, you got to think of it this way. Some people have put this issue off for months, if not years at a time. And, they've ignored the notices, haven't responded to collection attempts. And now all of a sudden, maybe you got a revenue officer assigned, and that revenue officer has significant collection powers. And, all of a sudden you've got a bank levy. There's nothing left in your account. Now, how would that feel if you're going to make your mortgage payment or your car payment or your utility payment, and there's no money there? People come to me and they're devastated, and so we're trying to work through that and get them money back. Or maybe they just got their IRS wage levy sent to their employer. Oh my God, how embarrassing was that? And then all of a sudden you see how much the money they leave you in your check, which still isn't enough money to live on, but it's what the IRS calculation says. Oh, you should be able to live on this. So this is what we're going to allow you to have. You get that? Allow you to have. People come here and they're calling or they're talking to us and they're completely devastated. Or maybe, they've gotten to the point where that revenue officer is going to seize vehicles or equipment or property. We've seen that happen before we've gotten involved. And we've got to find ways to stop that activity to prevent the IRS from taking what you've got. Now, on the reverse side, you've started working with us, and all of a sudden we've gotten that levy lifted off your bank account and got you some money back. Or maybe we got that wage levy lifted and now you're getting your full paycheck and you can afford to live again. Or, hey, you got to us before they got that bad and we've gotten that offer in compromise submitted, and now everything's on hold until they process that offer and you can get back to living your life. And when that offer is accepted, man, we see tears of joy. So you see tears of being upset and crying before we get involved because the IRS has taken really significant collection activity against you. And then we see the tears on the other side of being extremely happy because maybe we got the offer in, or partial pay, or even non-collectible status is sometimes just the ideal situation, depending on what your financial situation is and where we can get this and where we can take this to stop the IRS uh, collection activity and get your life back on track.
Barry, I remember one of the small things you told me was, and because I remember everything you say from every show, one of the things you says, a lot of times they'll hit your account on a Friday and you can't do anything about it because it's the weekend.
Oh, yeah. I mean, is there a better day for somebody to levy somebody's bank account than on a Friday? I mean, if it's, if you get paid the 1st and the 15th, they're going to hit those days. If you get paid every other week and it's Fridays, why wouldn't the IRS go through and do it? Now, here's the thing. When you start dealing with the IRS, some of the questions seem innocent and they're just asking or trying to have a conversation. And you got to know how to answer those questions so that you're not giving the IRS carte blanche to do everything and anything they want to. They're going to basically ask us seemingly innocent questions. When do you get paid? Innocent enough, isn't it? I get paid every other week. Okay, well, that pretty much tells you you're getting paid on Fridays every other week. I know when to hit the levy. How much do you make? Okay, now I know how much money that is going to be in your account. Where do you bank? See, you just gave them all the information and they don't have to do any research whatsoever. You volunteered information. The best thing is, before you get to that situation, is you hire somebody like Taxation Solutions, like our company, taxationsolutions.net. We're the experts at tax relief and getting you relief from your tax problem. And let us answer the questions. And then you can give them my name, my phone number, and don't have to answer anything. I've got representation. But you first got to call us and get representation by calling us at 888-930-1016. Again, 888-930-1016. Again, make sure you mention Ask the Experts. We got special discounts just for listening to this show. And, then once you're a client, you give them our name, our number. We take care of everything from there. We answer the questions. We work with the revenue officer, the collections departments, to make sure that we can help keep your life on track and make life a little bit easier for you so that, hey, you can sleep at night, your wife can sleep at night. You've manned up and taken care of the problem, and that makes her happier because somebody is dealing with the problem and you don't have to.
I got to get to our questions, Barry. We've got so many of them. I want to start off with Henry in Sugarland. He wants to know, how do I qualify for and I've never heard this before, how do I qualify for the low income certification, and can the lien on my account be removed? Oh, does he need you?
Well, call us here. Let us work with you. There's a possibility the lien on your property can be removed. They don't put a lien on your bank account. They're going to put liens on your property or your vehicles, any assets that you own. They will levy your bank account. And yes, we can sometimes stop those levies on your bank account. The liens, they're usually going to protect their interest in your assets. But as long as you're not selling them, those liens aren't going to be a huge deal. But if you are going to go sell your property, then maybe we need to do stuff to remove those liens on the property so that you can sell it and pay the IRS. But there may be other ways to resolve the problem outside of that. And if you are really low income, there are alternative settlements, everything from the offer and compromise potentially to a partial pay installment agreement, to a very low pay installment agreement, or just putting you in non-collectible status. But, you know, I know you can call around and you can check. Don't fall for right off the get-go. Everybody wants the pipe dream. Some of these companies out there you're going to deal with will tell you, yeah, you qualify for offer and compromise, and you don't. Give us a call. Let us go through our questions with you. Let us do our quick analysis with you so we can determine, hey, what may be the best route to settle your case? Will it be that offer? Will it be that partial pay? Will it be non-collectible or installment? We're going to be able to tell you. And, if you still want the pipe dream and you want to pay their fees for it, then you can still go and do that, but get a second opinion. It's kind of like, hey, somebody tells you you need a surgery. Are you going to go and say, okay, fine, I'm going to go get the surgery? Or are you going to get a second opinion? Are you sure that doctor is right? You may trust him and like him, but sometimes that second opinion gives you an alternative and really gives you a different perspective or a different layout, or they come up with maybe a better solution that might be better for you. And that's kind of what we are. We're going to sit there and do that analysis and give you, hey, the God's honest truth about what your situation is and where we think you can go. Now, when we get into the dirt and the details behind it, if you didn't tell us everything, then hey, maybe that was wrong because you didn't give us all the information. So when you call here, just be completely honest about what your situation is, what you have, assets, earnings, everything that we're going to be asking you so that we can get you the type of solution you need to solve your tax problem. But again, it starts with calling us at 888-930-1016. Again, 888-930-1016.
Here is Rex in the Woodlands. He said, I disagree with the IRS evaluation of my ability to pay. What should I do?
Hey, don't we all?
Yeah.
The IRS, really kind of figures you can pay. If you make $1, you can pay 100 or 200. It doesn't matter. So what we need to do is go through and do a complete analysis with you, Rex. We're going to go through and do the 433A. We're going to go through it in detail. You've got to give us all the information and stuff. You've got to, as we're going through and gathering your financial information, there are going to be a lot of things that the IRS allows and doesn't allow. And we've got to work through that to figure out the best way to put the offer or put the installment agreement to show them that you can't afford to pay. And there's different ways of doing that. Now, we've got to work within the IRS standards, but even working through those IRS standards, will allow us at times to get that payment plan down to something that you can actually afford and work through. Or maybe we've got to change some things and figure out a way to make everything work together to get to the payment plan both you can afford and they will accept. But it takes a lot of work to get there and to be able to do it. And again, Rex, hey, just give us a call. We're here local. We're in West Houston near Cypress. And our phone number is 888-930-1016. It's a toll-free call. Free call as well, because we're going to do a free first consultation just to be able to talk to you and figure out what's going to be the best solution for you. And then, how can we work together to get that solution as well? But hey, call us at 888-930-1016.
Hey, Barry, I just had the weirdest thought go through my head. If there was a show called Stump the Enrolled Agent, we've been doing this for over 15 years. No one's ever stumped you. You have just right off your tongue. You've been able to answer anyone's question, and we get so many different questions. So we couldn't do a stump the enrolled agent.
Hey, we should do that, nationally next week on the Ask the Expert show. Our show follows right behind your show. So you guys are
Yes.
9 o'clock Eastern. And then our tax talk for you .com show follows that at 10 Eastern time. So we could play Stump the Enrolled Agent, nationally before my show. Nobody ever accused me of not being able to talk. So I think that 2 hours that I'm going to be on the radio back to back will be a fun time to do Stump the Enrolled Agent. So if you got questions, man, call in, text them in, and let's see if you can stump me.
It can't be. It's never been done before. Let me go to Kathy in League City. She said, I'm currently in bankruptcy. Can I file an offer in compromise?
Oh my gosh, you almost stumped me. Hey, Kathy.
We didn't
See,
tell you Barry's got a sense of humor.
Yeah, yes. Kathy, you're involved in bankruptcy, so absolutely not until your bankruptcy is resolved. Your bankruptcy attorney should have told you up front what taxes could be or couldn't be included in that bankruptcy. But because you're going through bankruptcy, they won't let you go in and file an offer in compromise. And then the bankruptcy should resolve your tax issues if they were the right taxes that were included in your bankruptcy. If they are the most recent years, they could not be included in bankruptcy and you would still owe those. But your attorney should be the one that you should be talking to make sure that everything was included properly in your bankruptcy, because we've seen a lot of errors in bankruptcy. Now, I'm not an attorney, never wanted to be an attorney, don't charge legal fees, but we know the tax laws that apply for you as a taxpayer and how it would apply for the bankruptcy as well. So make sure they've included all the taxes possible in your bankruptcy. So that's a good phone call for you to make to your bankruptcy attorney today, Kathy, to make sure they've got all that stuff included.
Ron in Sugarland, can I send one offer form to compromise both my business and personal taxes?
Again, good try, but no. And no to your question there, Ron. You've got to send an offer for the business taxes, and then you've got to send an offer for your personal taxes. Because one is business debt, the other one is personal debt. So they are two different entities. And we could help you with that, as well. Just give us a call at 888-930-1016. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of people try to file their own offers and compromises, and they get so many things wrong in those offers and compromises, and it creates a lot more work and a lot of problems. You also extend statute of limitations while the offer is pending with the IRS. And then when you get that offer back, 6 months or 9 months or even a year later, when they finally look at it and they just return it, you've added a whole nother year to your statute of limitations, and you've accomplished nothing but delaying collections. And we've got to start all over and file the offer correctly so that you can qualify. So you want to make sure you're working with somebody that can help you with that offer and resolve all of it and get it filed correctly.
Barry, one of the things I've learned about doing your show is there's people out there who go, I want to save some money, do it myself. But the first biggest mistake I've learned from you that people make is actually just talking to the IRS themselves. And they don't understand how deep a hole they're digging themselves by trying to do this themselves by talking to the IRS.
Oh yeah, those seemingly innocent questions we talked about earlier are some of the ones that start digging the hole. You answer a question wrong about money or how much you make or where your money is, or he asked something innocent and you answered it, or you may have been joking, because I've heard that all the time. I was just joking with them. Well, they don't take it as a joke. That became gospel. And that's what they're going to follow through, and they're going to say, hey, you have this or you have that, even if you don't. And if you answer things wrong, they kind of hold your feet to the fire as well. We've had some clients who didn't disclose property or didn't disclose other thing, and it becomes, an issue out there as well. So, we always tell you, hey, you shouldn't do it yourself. My wife tells me that all the time when I'm dealing with electrical or something. We're building a new building and I've dealt with electrical. Guess what? We had to call the electrician and it cost me more money than it would have if he had done it the first time. And, but that is, we all decide, hey, I can do this, so I'm going to try to get in and do it. Um, you don't have to be that guy. You can use us by calling 888-930-1016. Again, it's 888-930-1016, or go to taxationsolutions.net. Let us help you through it. We can talk and do a free consultation, free call, and special discounts just for mentioning Ask the Experts.
Barry, your show I was just looking at the clock and it said 10:25, and now we got less than a minute left. Your show goes by so fast. Listen, Monday's going to be a tough day for you. 2 hours.
Hey, it's going to be fun. So, hey, don't miss us on Ask the Experts, at 9:00 Eastern time, right here in W4CY Radio. And then taxtalk4u.com follows right behind it at 10 Eastern, right there on the same station, W4CY Radio. Don't miss either episode. It's going to be a great day. And I promise I'll have plenty of coffee and be ready to go and answering questions.
Hey, bro, I love you, man. I'll see you Monday.
Hey, appreciate it, Steve-O. Thanks a lot. Have a God blessed and glorious week, everybody.
Bless you. That's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. Folks, I've already sent several of my friends to him. That's how much I trust Barry. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.